Can an airline be socially and environmentally responsible while also committed to providing the travelers with a luxury travel experience? Cathay Pacific says yes, with their next generations of airplanes and their philosophy of life well traveled. So when I think about an airline, I obviously think about airplanes, and you're always getting new airplanes. What makes this plane special?
So the A350 is the next generation. So there's a number of things that appeal to an airline. One, of course, is fuel efficiency. And where does that come from? Well, it comes from the jet engine technology, but it also comes from the materials used in the design of the airplane. And they're now using a composite material, which is much lighter. So you burn less fuel, less emissions. That's a good thing. You can also pressurize the cabin more. You know how you feel a little dried out and tired and swollen and tired after a long-haul flight? Well, these airplanes now, they have more humidity in the air. They can pressurize the cabin to a greater degree, so you actually feel better. And that's all part of our philosophy around life well traveled. You know, this idea that travel is an enriching experience. It's not just something to be, to be tolerated.
Certainly from a business perspective, I can understand changing the weight of the plane, making it lighter, more efficient. But as a person who's inside the plane, I also know that you're doing different things on the inside with carpets and other things.
Yeah, we are. We're actually using waste material, which might sound a bit strange.
It's interesting that you'd be using waste materials when you're a luxury brand inside the plane.
Yeah, it's slightly counterintuitive, isn't it? You'd think, premium carrier, luxury product.
Top of the line,
How do you use waste materials? Well, it's very exciting for us. So we found a supplier who uses discarded fishing nets, as an example. So these are nets that otherwise are a menace in the oceans. They're potentially harmful for marine life, as well as PET from plastic bottles. I mean, we use a lot of these products these days, and so we've now been able to repurpose that material. As a result, we get a fantastic quality. It doesn't compromise the quality at all.
Wearable?
Absolutely, Jeff. They're very wearable. Luxury blankets, premium quality in-flight kits. These are all things that are now coming from repurposed waste materials. And frankly, we're never going to run out of waste. So it seems to us that it's a good supply chain.
So what made you think of something like that?
Really, this dates back to the longevity of Cathay Pacific. So we're 71 years old this year. We've been around since 1946. So we've always been on the cutting edge of really entrepreneurial development of aviation. And this is just, it's another step, whether it's non-stop flying. So we were one of the first to come trans-Pacific. We did the first trans-polar routing in 1998 to link New York and Hong Kong. These are quite pioneering feats, really, from an aviation perspective. And this is another of those development moments in aviation history. We've got to start looking at things like biofuels. We've got to start looking at things like composite materials. How do we source our products? These are kind of things that are now very important to us.
So energy's changing for everyone, and now you're talking about biofuel. Why should I be looking at biofuel as opposed to what you've traditionally been using in the planes?
Yeah, so one of the concerns people have around biofuel is they often confuse it with biodiesel, which tends to get a bit sticky in freezing point. So this is actually jet aviation fuel that is now manufactured in a number of different pathways. The one that we invested in, actually we were the first airline to invest in a technology around biofuel, is municipal solid waste, so your household trash, to jet fuel, and that's being developed by Fulcrum Bioenergy.
Is it at a large capacity in terms of being able to take it across the whole fleet, or just in selected planes?
So it's all a question of scale, isn't it? And at the moment, no, those volumes are going to be relatively small. We're hoping for about 3% for our total aircraft fuel requirements by about 2020.
And what would that mean for that person who's in the airport every day?
So here's the interesting thing. Biofuel ultimately is delinked from the price of fossil fuel. At the moment, it's more expensive. There's no doubt about that. And we are having to enable that industry because we do think that biofuel is important. But the second thing is the emissions. So the emissions footprint that you get from fuel, whether it's carbon or other particulate matter, that's going to be significantly reduced. So actually, airports are going to be at a point where they're going to be keen to see the overall emissions footprint of their airport decrease.
As their neighbors will as well.
We think that's pretty important, and obviously our concern is around that community. The society around airports are as much of our stakeholders as they are the airports.
Is that a concern for you as an airline?
Oh, of course it is. One of the reasons that we've invested in the A350 is a lot quieter. So actually it allows you to carry out your operations with far less impact on the local community.
So they are practicing the good neighbor policy?
Well, we think if they're good neighbors, they're probably going to be slightly more inclined to want to travel with us.